Hey, same day, new shirt, just as I promised before. So today I want to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about price anchoring. You've heard me talk about this before. If you're a fan of the podcast, it's what softens the blow when you have kind of like a higher price point, or you're trying to get more of a higher price point to be accepted by others. Then you want to use this technique of a price anchoring. It was actually the first study that I found on it was this bar in Ireland or something like that, where they had a list of their beers, and they started with the cheapest beers at the top and then the most expensive beers at the bottom, and they ran it for 3 months, and they said this was the average order of beer, and it was like $4 and something cents. And then they switched it, and they said we're going to put the $10 beers at the top and then all the way down to our $2 beers or whatever at the bottom. And we're going to run that for a month or 3 months or whatever it was. And that one came out to be $6 was the average order value when it was all said and done. And so this was the first kind of study of hey, people spent more money when we presented the more expensive product first and then worked our way down, instead of the cheapest product first and working our way up. Now, this is going to make sense to you as a consumer. You're going to naturally know, if someone is... if I was like, hey, you want to work with Grow My Etsy Shop, we'll jump in, we'll do this thing one-on-one, we'll work on your store, and you have a price in your head of what you're willing to pay. And if I come in and say, all right, so for this, you get it for $6, and this is $50, and if you want to get this, this, and this, well, now it moves up to $150, and now if you want this, 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 then this, it moves up to $500, you're going to be like, okay, well, I like that 150 range, is where you're at. If I go the opposite direction, if you want all of these things, it's $500. But if you just want this and this and this, it's 150. That 150 suddenly seems affordable. It went from I think I'll take the 150 to, compared to 500? Yeah, that 150 sounds great. Funny enough, my dad was the first person to introduce me to this concept. He was a salesman most of his life. He had a wedding magazine. He did advertising and things like that. And he used to say to me, this line worked really well for him, that when people would, he'd be selling, you get exposure, you get these things, all selling the things of the magazine. He says, of course, everyone's wondering, how much are you going to charge me for a full page? He said, when they would ask that question, if I wasn't done with my pitch, I would say to them, well, it's not going to be $5,000. Don't worry, it's not going to be $5,000. He says, it's not even close to $5,000, it's $800. He said, the reason I say that is I get them in the mind frame of I wasn't quite at that $5,000 mark. Whoa, we're out here now. So he says, by the time I got done making the pitch and then dropped it to an 800 didn't seem so bad anymore after the 5,000. And so, yeah, kind of padded it. This is called price anchoring. And based on what we've heard from the study before, and Grant Robinson, my father, you can hear how this can work in your business. So here you are, Etsy sellers, looking to sell your products, and you are given opportunities to use pricing to your advantage. So I'm going to talk about some ways that you could specifically use it in your Etsy shop, and different, based on the drop-down menus and stuff like that, to really help you kind of create this price anchor and how to get the most value. So winning technique number one is, first of all, this has been proven. It's kind of a weird thing, but in your pictures, it's very common that we take pictures of the product that we're selling, and there's this psychological hack that when you show a line as opposed to just a single product. So let's just use the term gummy bear, for example. You could always take pictures of just the red gummy bear that you're selling. But in one of your pictures, it doesn't even mean the front picture, but in one of the pictures, you put all of them out just to show, look, I got a line of gummy bears. I make clear ones, I make green ones, I make blue ones. Here are all my gummy bears. That builds trust in someone. And so it's just wise in general that if you sell custom dog tags, that one of your pictures, you just have a plethora of dog tags out. It shows that you're capable, that you're not just out there hand making them or whatever it may be, that you have them on hand. There's just a lot that kind of comfort that comes from seeing someone being all in with the product that they're designing. So it also, if you want to get one step further into it, it allows them to also identify the ones that they like quickly. so they'll be able to see them all and kind of be like, oh, I do like the one I'm looking at or whatever. Now we have to be careful because there's the paradox of choice that comes into this, which let's go down that tangent really quick. That is proven. The more options that you have, the more confusing it can be. There's two things that come from that. One is you force them to make a decision that's harder than it needs to be. And so it is so common that people say, oh, I want to put all these colors and I want to have all these options available because I want them to be able to choose the one that they want. All you're doing is putting more friction at the finish line. It isn't what you're supposed to be doing. This is what's been proven. 4. 4 is the best optimal number for options. 4. Let me give you an example. If I said at the end of this podcast, hey, thanks so much for listening. Make sure you leave a review if you had a good experience. You can follow me on YouTube. You can subscribe to my RS feed and check me out at growmyetsyshop.com. Those are my 4. Let's keep going. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, follow me on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter, follow me on, just at that point, the likelihood of you doing any of them goes out the window. And so I'm a big believer of the less options, the better. I'm a huge believer, and a lot of marketers believe this in general. It's why funnels are so popular, is that you're just funneling one direction of what you're doing. However, it is wise, especially if you have someone's attention, to sort of be able to offer different things along the way of what you're doing. So they say the max that someone can feel comfortable making a decision, and this is the key, that they feel confident that they made the right decision. That's where people get hung up. If you have 50 options, they have to feel confident that they're making the right decision, and they have to not have buyer's regret. How many times have you been, and I've used this analogy before, to an ice cream shop that has 50 flavors, and you sample a few, you choose the one that you like. If I was to interview you walking out of that ice cream store and say, how confident are you that you chose the best flavor? You wouldn't feel confident. Maybe there was another better flavor out there. But if there was 4, you would feel really confident that you chose the best one. And that's what you want your people to feel. In fact, it's proven that people who have less options get less returns because people feel more confident with what they have. So, tangent for you, but paradox of choice. There's another term for it. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, 4 is the answer to that. 4 choices is the best that you can have. Anything more than that, you're starting to create friction. All right, so now that we've done that tangent, let's jump back to price anchoring. So one of the, and even before I talk about price anchoring here, I'm going to just give you some kind of machine gun techniques that you can do to, and this is not on Etsy, this is if you had your own website, but just some things that that would be nice to understand. Number 1 being, if your product's in the thousands, remove commas. That's just a general rule. Number 2 is try to avoid putting any currency symbols. So money signs are a deterrent to people. So $15 with the money sign versus just 15. If you ever go to a nice restaurant where food's a little bit more expensive, you'll notice they don't put the money sign next to anything. They just write 15 in what they're doing. Another thing that you're going to notice is they use smaller fonts for their pricing. There's something about being visually small that makes it not seem as intimidating. And so when something's on sale or a price that you're very proud of, they in marketing they say to use ugly fonts. Use ugly fonts for stuff like that because you want it to draw attention. You want someone to go, why is that so much different than everything else? Oh wow, look at that price. That's what you're going for. But for the most part, when you're just trying to convince people to buy from you, if you can have a smaller price, that it psychologically makes them feel like the price is smaller. So removing currency, making, you know what, there's actually this weird study. Now we're going on another tangent here. It was for inline skates. And so they, in one of the products, they put the final thing that was there. So it was like the price was here, and then they had this kind of saying above it. It was low friction skates, and then the price. And it was $70 or whatever. And then on the other one, they said high performing skates, same price. And it was the low friction term that more people bought. And the reason for this, what they believe is, and what has been proven more than once, is that it's using small words like low or small that allow people to psychologically feel like the price isn't as aggressive as when you say high or big or whatever it may be on the other side. And so when you're running sales or anything, like using terms big or huge and stuff like that's really great because you're, again, drawing attention to your price. But in this scenario, again, most of you aren't going to be in this position, but it's just interesting to know. It's interesting to know that we do this with pricing. And next time you're at a restaurant, you're going to look at a menu and say, why is the price so small and there's no currency and there's no commas? Now you know why. All right, back to price anchoring for the 100 billionth time. So one of the best things that you can do, especially once you get a bestseller or something's moving, is that you can start to create bundles with that. And one of the techniques that I like with bundles is that you, especially if you have a product that you can sell multiple together. So like, oh, buy 2 prints, buy 3 prints, buy 4 prints, buy 5 prints, for example. Then you can start to create bundles with that. Now, the secret with bundles is that you never want to not make it so that they don't know the cost per unit. Let me share an example of that. If I was to, let's say I sell candles, and I'm like, hey, you can get one candle for $8, or you can get 2 candles for $16. Well, what did we just learn? I'm selling the exact same price. They're $8 each. It's easy to do the math, right? If I said you can get 4 candles for $15.70 or $15, that's where things get complicated, and it's hard for our brains, and it creates what we're trying to avoid, friction. Because what we want to do, just so that we're all on the same page here, the human makes 35,000 decisions a day. Now, most of those we're very unaware of them, like when to blink, when to rest, when, whatever. But like somewhere around after about 20,000 or something like that, we get into kind of like more like subconscious decisions, and then when we get down to the last 10,000 or something like that, it's like conscious decisions, or I can't remember. What you need to know is it's 3,500 decisions that are being made a day. And so you don't want to be another reason for decisions to be made. So you want the decisions to be really easy. And so it's okay, again, if you have 4 options where they can buy 1 candle, 2 candles, 3 candles, 4 candles, as long as it's very clear that the price per candle, they can figure it out and see the value really quickly. So if they're selling 4 candles and they're $12, you want them to be able to figure that out quick. Or $16, let's just make it that way. They're $4 each, done. Obviously, then you would want to price it so that they would get rewarded the more that they buy. However, in price anchoring, when you're using price anchoring for your advantage, what you're trying to do is create a really like a make sense number that's like, oh, this is the best deal. Because if you can get them to feel that, if you can get them to be like, oh, this is a really good option for me, done. Remember what our whole process is. We just want people to make good decisions. So if they feel like they're making a good decision and they don't have regrets about that decision, you've done your job as someone who's presenting something. So again, if you're selling candles and you have 4 options, it might make sense that your 4 candle option is a little bit more, not that much more savings than it is at your 3. And so that way they're like, oh, I'll just get the 3 option. And then you put, and you've heard me say this before, most popular next to it. This is called social proofing. So that way if they're like, oh, I don't know, it's like, well, I can follow the crowd. I can follow yeah, here it is. I'm going to go this direction. And off they go. So that's a good one, is that you essentially price anchor. Again, what would you start with in this scenario is you would start with a heavier or higher price tag. Now, Etsy's going to organize it the way they're going to organize it, and you're going to want to have the lower price be the click price that comes in. So again, this is just something that you can take, and when you see your opportunities, whether that's in a graphic, in your actual pictures, on your website, or whatever it may be, that you would present yourself the highest option first, and then work your way down instead of the lowest option first and working your way up. Price anchoring. There it is.